In this video, we're going to talk about the Sony WH-1000 XM5. That name is absolutely crazy work. I don't know why they named it like that. So I'm going to refer to these as the XM5s moving forward. These headphones are actually 3 years old at the time of this upload, and I want to talk about them because I didn't really intend on loving them as much as I do. Obviously, it has some drawbacks, which we'll cover later in the video, but this is just a practical real-world review and my thoughts on the Sony XM5s. I wasn't planning on making a video on the XM5s, but I think after using them for quite some time now, I feel like these are still one of the best headphones that you can get on the market. Of course, it has some drawbacks, which we'll talk about in this video as well, but I've been using it for music, editing, calls, pretty much anything, especially traveling. And I think this is just going to be my practical, honest, real-world review on the XM5s. So if you're perusing YouTube right now and you're on the fence about picking up one of these headphones, or you're just looking for a good pair of over-ear headphones and you're just here to hang, let's talk about it. The truth is, these aren't even mine. I actually stole them from my wife for this video. We've actually been sharing these headphones. Initially, only she got them, and I was kind of pretty set on getting the AirPods Max, but I never actually ended up doing it after testing it a few times, and I was kind of waiting for an updated version, hopefully this last year, but they refreshed it and that was an L of a refresh because all they did was add a USB-C port. The design and all the flaws were still the same, so I didn't want to justify the $500 price tag to get those. So just been kind of sharing these with my wife, but I've really grown to love them while I've been waiting for another pair of headphones, which is funny because now I feel like these are the ones that maybe I want to get for myself, or maybe just buy my wife a different color and steal hers because I like this color a lot too. With that being said, I want to share some of the findings about these headphones and why I still think that for the price, it's still pretty good. And what my wish list is if Sony decides to come out with the next version or the XM6s. So of course they're headphones, so let's first talk about the audio quality and kind of get that out of the way. Now, I'm by no means an audiophile, so this isn't going to be a technical deep dive or comparison on how these sound, but I will talk about my practical real-world experience using these. Now, in the past, I've used things like the Beats over-ear headphones or even Bose like the Quiet Comforts or QCs, and I've always felt like the Beats were a little bit too bassy and the Bose were always lacking a little bit of bass. I feel like the Sonys, for my preference and my liking, I like how it's a kind of a middle ground. Now, of course, a lot of these headphones are app controlled and you can actually go in there and adjust some of the EQ to your liking. But I feel like right out of the box, the XM5s are one of the better sounding headphones as my own personal preference. It has a good mix of bass, treble, and when I'm listening to music or I'm editing, I feel like they work pretty well for both of those. The noise cancellation is great, but I do think Apple still has the edge in terms of the transparency mode and also in general just noise canceling, especially if you use Apple products like MacBooks, iPhones, etc. So if you're not in the Apple ecosystem, these are a great option. If you are in the Apple ecosystem, I still think for some of those more noise cancellation features and the transparency mode especially, I do think Apple headphones are still better for that. However, the XM5s are no slouch. It's still great. I don't ever wish that it was more noise canceling happening. I never wish that it had more features in terms of the transparency mode. It works for what it does, and there's no real sludge. Sludge? I'm telling you, man, people don't talk about how hard it is to make YouTube videos, bro. We're out here making up words for stuck in our head. Sludge, bro, is not even a word. Now, in terms of noise cancellation, I will say it's pretty solid. I mean, I use the transparency mode. I also use the noise cancellation feature. For me, I actually like to use the headphones in its ambient or transparency mode, I guess, for most of the time because I like being able to hear the outside environment. Sometimes it feels kind of weird when I just can't hear anything and it's totally isolated, especially when I'm in a cafe, because I feel like part of the joy of working in a cafe or a coffee shop is being able to hear some of those ambient sounds. I will say though, when you're traveling on a plane or you're in pretty much only the plane, I use the full noise cancellation feature and it works really well. Now, of course, in terms of the audio quality and its features, you can adjust a lot of its stuff in the app, which we're not going to cover extensively, but it is cool that you can control the headphones and tweak a few things within the mobile app. Personally, I'm just not a fan of having to use an app, because it seems like there's an app for every tech piece or device we have nowadays. So I'm kind of a big fan of just buying hardware, being able to take it out of the box and just start using it without having to connect all these things and make accounts and connect an app. The comfort is pretty spot on with the XM5s. I think they're one of the most, if not the most comfortable headphones that I've ever worn for over-the-ear options. One of my worries with over-the-ear headphones is that it'll get too hot when I'm wearing them for long periods, and it does happen sometimes with these depending on how hot my environment is, but for the most part, the leather material and also just the breathability of them are really good, and I never have really a problem with sweating too much in these or just it not being comfortable. But when it comes to comfort, I think the most important thing to consider, obviously, is how it fits on your head. Everyone has a different shaped head, everyone has different shaped ears. Not everybody's experience is gonna feel the same as mine, but again, practical use case, I've worn it for very long flights, like 10 plus hours, and they feel really good. And that's just really the only thing I could say about them. If comfort is what you're looking for, these are definitely a win for that. Next, let's talk about the design of these headphones. Now, the design of the headphones is honestly pretty minimal and pretty sleek, I would say. These headphones at the time of this video are now over 3 years old, I'm pretty sure. And I still think they look decent, especially if you're kind of into the more minimal aesthetic and you don't want something that's too loud. The colors they have for these are really nice too. Comes in like black and navy and this kind of like cream taupe color. And they all look pretty good with any outfit or anything you wear. And I like that because nowadays these over-ear headphones have started to become a bit of a fashionable tech piece. And so a lot of times, especially like things like the AirPod Max, they wear them as a fashion piece or as a statement with their outfit when they're traveling or when they're using them in cafes and just wearing them with their outfit. These ones are definitely not crazy loud, but sleek enough to make you want to wear them whenever you are out. Now for the $400 price tag, you might try these headphones on or touch them. You might think it doesn't have that premium finish or quality because it is made out of, I think, just like a recycled plastic, especially for most parts of these. And it feels like plastic, but not sure if I can explain it well or show it on video. It doesn't feel cheap though. It is plastic, but it doesn't feel cheap. Like it has almost this matte texture to it. And I've noticed that over the years, even after extensive use, there isn't that many scratches or blemishes on it. And I'm definitely not super light with these. I'll just like toss them around, throw them in my bag. These headphone ear cups are constantly hitting each other, but I never have to worry about it scratching or something. And maybe that is just because of the durable plastic that they used and the overall design of it. And I feel like for something like headphones that are kind of thrown around a lot, that's really important, and its durability. When it comes to headphones, if it has a premium finish, they might look really good, but you might have to be more careful about where you're setting them down or like if you're throwing them into your bag with other things. But with these, you don't really have to worry about that. And I think for that purpose, it's good. If you're wanting some metal finishes, you want it to look super premium, maybe like the AirPods Max, you're not gonna get that with these headphones. Now, I guess one of the functional design features for the headphones is the ear cups. Now, these ear cups are actually touch sensitive, so you can use gesture controls like swiping to go to the next track or going up to change the volume, things like that. I don't honestly find myself using that feature too much. Maybe it's just because I feel like it's a little gimmicky, but the fact that it does have that feature is pretty cool. But again, I don't really tinker with the gesture features too much. Obviously, a huge thing to consider when buying headphones is the battery life. The XM5s, the spec sheet says that it'll get about 30 hours or 40 hours if you don't use the noise cancellation features. I've never done like a real world technical test of that and really clocking the hours and whatnot. But I will say after a full charge, I never find myself really wishing that I had charged it or that I find it dead when I'm trying to use it, because nothing's worse than sitting down for a long editing session or a long flight and your headphones are dead. So I will say the battery life from a practical kind of experience, never had a problem with it. With a full charge, I do find it going for weeks at a time if I'm not using them heavily. And thankfully they do have a USB-C charging port, which is great because we all have USB-C cables now lying around. What's crazy is the AirPods Max, the refresh, they literally just brought the USB-C port to the headphones like years after they released it, which was such such an L of a refresh, to be honest, because this came out in 2022 and they already had USB-C ports. So Apple needs to step the game up with the new AirPods Max, in my opinion, especially for the $500 price tag. These being way cheaper, especially when they're on sale, it's kind of a no-brainer. But like every piece of tech, rarely is it perfect. There's always some cons. And there are definitely some cons with these headphones. Like I said, it doesn't have that premium finish like you see in some of these newer headphones. Also, I will say that it's not foldable. It's kind of a really like annoying design because you can't fold these ear caps in to make it more compact. And the case that it comes with is kind of big, has this magnetic flap to hide your cables. But again, the case itself, once the headphones are sitting in them, you know, it fits nicely and the case is decent, but this is kind of big. Like I have a MacBook here for reference, but like, look at how big this case is. So it's not the most ideal for traveling, depending on how tight you pack your bags. So I do wish they had a little bit more of a compact foldable design, but maybe they will bring that in for the next version. That's probably my biggest thing that I hope the next version has. The next con isn't really about the product itself. I think it's the price. Like I said, these are $400 at the time of this video, and I think $400 is not a little amount of money for headphones, especially the ones that are built like this, or the quality of them, in my opinion. I think the market demand for them is why they're able to charge $400 for so long, but I don't think it's actually worth $400 if I were to be honest. I think these headphones are more like in the $300, maybe even like $275, $280 range. $400 being $100 cheaper than the AirPods Max is getting pretty close to like a premium build quality as well in that territory. So I will say, if you're on the fence about these, wait for like Black Friday or Cyber Monday or even Amazon Prime. I've seen these go as low as like $275, $260 when they're on sale. So don't pay the full $400 if you can wait. If you're like one of those people who can't wait and you're like about to add to cart right now after this video, then they're still solid headphones. But if you can be patient, I know for a fact that these go on sale pretty frequently. So just wait for the sale, you'll be able to get a pretty good deal. And I think for under $300, these are a great bargain. So that's just a chill one for you guys today. If you like tech videos like this, definitely subscribe to the channel. As you can see, this channel doesn't have that many subscribers because it's pretty new, but we're trying to cook a lot more tech videos and just geeking out about certain products and things like that on this channel. So if you're into that kind of stuff, definitely hit that subscribe. Leave a comment if you have any questions or my experience on the XM5s, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Coming back around after the great move, the end credit scene out.